Mr. President, the scientific community has been extremely clear, no debate. Climate change is real, climate change is man-made, and climate change is already causing severe damage in terms of drought, floods, forest fires, rising sea levels, and extreme weather disturbances. Given that reality, I find it extremely disturbing that virtually all, not all, but virtually all of my Republican colleagues continue to ignore the scientific evidence and refuse to support serious legislation which will address this planetary crisis. My hope is that my small state of Vermont will be a national leader, will be a model for the rest of the country in transforming our energy system, moving us away from fossil fuels and into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And doing that, by the way, will not only help the United States become a leader in reversing climate change, but can, over a period of years, create millions of good-paying jobs in this country. And that has got to be the goal. Now, Mr. President, some people ask, many people ask, they say, well, why aren't you guys doing anything on this issue? The scientific community is almost unanimous about the causation of climate change, about its severity. What are you doing? And let me answer that by just very briefly reading an exchange that took place on the floor of the Senate on April 11th, 2013. And let me preface my remarks by saying that Senator Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma is a friend of mine. I like Jim Inhofe. He is an honest person, straightforward person. But on this issue, he is dead wrong. And this is the exchange that took place on April 11th, 2013. I was on the floor, and this is what I said. I said, what Senator Inhofe has written, and he has published a book on this issue, what Senator Inhofe has written and talked about is his belief that global warming is one of the major hoaxes ever perpetrated on the American people. That it's a hoax pushed by people like Al Gore, the United Nations, and the Hollywood elite. And then Senator Inhofe was here on the floor, and I said, I think that is a fair quote from Senator Inhofe. Is that roughly right, Senator Inhofe? And he was right here. And Mr. Inhofe said, yes. I would add to that list, MoveOn.org, George Soros, Michael Moore, and a few others, end of quote. So that is where we are. We have a gentleman, again, a very honest, decent man who I like, former chair of the Environmental Committee, former ranking member of the Environmental Committee, who believes that global warming is a hoax pushed by people like Al Gore, the United Nations, and the Hollywood elite. So when people ask me why we are not doing anything, I would say that is pretty much the reason. But let me respond to that, to Mr. Inhofe's views, by saying the following. Climate change is real, and there is no longer a scientific debate about that. In the words of the U.S. Global Change Research Program, which includes EPA, NASA, the National Science Foundation, and the Departments of Defense, Energy, State, Health, Interior, Transportation, and Commerce, I quote, global warming is unequivocal and primarily human-induced, end of quote. That's not my view. It's not Senator Boxer's view, not Senator Schatz's view. That is the view of the U.S. Global Change Research Program, which includes some of the major agencies of the United States government. And by the way, clearly it is not just the United States government or agencies that believe that. There are agencies representing virtually every country on earth who have come to the same conclusion. Now, when some people say, Mr. President, well, there is a debate, the evidence is not yet clear, the scientific community is not quite sure, let me clear the air on that one. According to a study published in the journal Environmental Research Letters in May of last year, more than 97% of the peer-reviewed scientific literature on climate supports the view that human activity is a primary cause of global warming. I believe I read yesterday that the minority leader, Senator McConnell of Kentucky, was saying, well, for every person who believes that climate change is real, there's another person who disagrees. Well, the polling indicates that's not quite accurate, but what is really important is not what this person feels or what that person feels. It is what those people who have studied the issue extensively believe. That really is what matters. And for those people, the 97% of the peer-reviewed scientific literature on this issue, they say very clearly that climate change is real and that human activity is a primary cause of global warming. And I am reminded, and I think Senator Boxer made this point a while ago, that the debate that we're having now is very reminiscent about the debate we had 30 or 40 years ago about the role that tobacco plays in cancer and emphysema and heart conditions and so forth. And we had people well-funded by the tobacco institutes coming before the American people, putting ads on television, saying, you know, smoking is okay. There is no evidence linking smoking to cancer. Well, they were lying, as a matter of fact. And many of these people were being funded by the Tobacco Institute, and I think we are in the same position now. A lot of the information, the misinformation that is coming forward is funded by the fossil fuel industry, and we should be clear about that. Is there still a scientific debate about anything related to climate? What's the debate? Well, the only remaining scientific debates are about just how devastating climate change will be.